welcome to another edition of the show that gives the motorist's mind a refreshing weekly service without the sting in the tail of a large bill for parts and labour. For the next hour, you can top up on oils that's happening in the four wheels world. Who writes this stuff? Including Mike Rutherford's reports from recent major American car shows. Well, later on, we'll be in Germany driving the latest version of the popular Ford Galaxy, this time with a 2.3-litre engine under the distinctive curved front hatch. Ginny Buckley, however, will be opting for a far slower mode of transport as she joins a band of tank driving enthusiasts. But first, if your company car is ready for a change and you're wistfully flicking the pages of executive car brochures wondering how to spend your 25 grand, here's a report from Ian Royle on a saloon which goes on sale in the UK this week.
Now, I'm never usually one to complain, but after a dull diet of repmobiles, driving these things around all day, you really want to get something with a little bit more spice, something radical in its design. And that's why we've come to seek out Fresher Pastures, a gourmet menu of one of the world's most beautiful cars. Well, this is Hever Castle near Edenbridge in Kent, where I've come to have my motoring appetite whetted. And on the gourmet menu is the brand new Audi A6. Hever Castle is a mock Tudor castle with a lovely village where we're staying tonight. The Audi is the epitome of modern engineering. Audi's designers really have come up with an absolutely stunning car. The curved sweeping lines are just fantastic, very reminiscent of the Audi TT prototype that we saw a couple of years back. The interior is very well appointed too, high spec. Let's take a look at it. Now, the inside of the Audi A6 is very impressive. It doesn't have the ambience of, say, a Jaguar, but it reeks of quality. The only maybe downside about the A6 getting into this car is it may be a little dull, perhaps needs lightening up, but you could do that if you have the optional leather upholstery. You can select the choice of hides and colours. You can even select from 3 different wood trims. And the standard specification on the Audi A6 is very impressive. You get climate control, automatic climate control. You will be able to sit back in luxury with air conditioning whirring away. The stereo system is a quality system which you don't get on some other German cars, so perhaps BMW and Mercedes are going to follow suit on that very soon. And there are nice little touches like a cup holder in the front for the driver and a centre armrest. Audi engineers worked with mathematical simulation in order to achieve the rigidity, weight and crash properties of the body of the new Audi A6. And they've also used aluminium for the engine hood, door frames and parts of the running gear. Despite being lighter overall, the new body is 50% more rigid than the previous version, and the driver benefits from better ride comfort. However, if you're looking for a thrilling drive, well, you really won't get it unless you ask for the sport suspension option, which at around £300 is probably well worth paying for. Now with me now is Len Hunt, who's director of Audi UK. Len, you've introduced this gorgeous new A6. What made you bring it in at this stage of the cycle up against the new BMWs, the new Mercedes E-Class?
Well, I think since 1994, when we saw the first A6, which was the first car to carry the new A-series nomenclature, we've been progressively launching cars. We saw the A8 and the A4, then the A3 last year, and now we've been building up for this executive sector attack, really, to take on that car, the BMW 5 Series principally, and the Mercedes E-Class. So it really is an important car for Audi. Well, I think one of the comments that we saw around the introduction of the 5 Series BMW and the E-Class Mercedes was very much the evolutionary styling that the cars took. And with the Audi A6, we see more of an innovative approach, more a step change in the styling, certainly on the exterior and particularly on the interior. And we're seeing sort of design features from the concept car we launched in Frankfurt, which is the TT, the Audi TT. And so we're seeing a design stretch. And I think for people looking to be more sort of innovative, more modern, you can see a sort of far-reaching stretch design.
The new Audi A6 was first unveiled at the Geneva Motor Show in March to fanfares and Wagnerian fantasy characters. Its radical styling, reminiscent of the Audi TT, heralds the next generation for Audi. Audi UK expect to sell around 4,000 A6 saloons in its first full year, which will give it a 2% share of the market, double the share Audi had in 1994. The new A6 saloon gains additional standard specification over the outgoing saloon. This includes electronic differential lock, EDL, traction control, which was previously only standard on the Quattro model, electronic climate control, electric seat height adjustment, radio wave remote control central locking, and a host of other standard specifications. But surprisingly for an executive car, automatic gearbox is an option on all models.
Well, I think automatic transmission is a view that with the Tiptronic can be taken as an option. It tends to be taken that way, that people in this market, particularly in the UK, do like to have a manual as an option, or now the Tiptronic automatic, which has dynamic shift program as well. So it really is to try and give maximum choice.
Well, initial driving impressions of the new Audi A6 are very good. We're driving the 2.4, which is the V6, 165 brake horsepower, and this is equipped on this model with the automatic transmission, which includes the Tiptronic mode, which allows you to shift up and down the gears with the manual selector. That's very impressive. One thing that's annoying so far is that the central control system that is in the middle of the dashboard, which allows you to see which gear you're in, is very difficult to see on a bright sunny day like this. I've got my sunglasses on, it's sunny outside, it's very difficult to see which gear I'm in on the control system because you can't seem to adjust the brightness of the control system, so that's annoying. Also, when you're in automatic mode normally, it does tend to hunt up and down the gears a little bit, and there's a bit of jerkiness there as you try and put your foot down and it kicks up a gear. But cruising at 70 miles an hour on a motorway, dual carriageway, it's quiet, it's refined. Impressions so far are good. The newly developed electronic climate control now responds to the position of the sun. The system has separate temperature controls for the driver and passenger, and new sensors not only measure the temperature at selected points, but also take into account the surrounding area. A solar sensor now measures the intensity and angle of the sun's rays. Attention to detail or what? Now, when manufacturers design a new executive car, the driver inevitably always comes first. The rear passengers sometimes get a rough deal. The cabins can be very cramped in the back. But the new Audi A6 has a remarkably spacious cabin. It has class-leading knee and leg room in the rear. It has a light, airy cabin. Now, I'm 6 foot and there's plenty of space for me in the back. The seats are perhaps a little firm, but I think you'd mould your body into it quite well. Nice little touches in the rear, these 2 cup holders. There's a centre armrest. There's a third 3-way seatbelt as well. Little reading lamps, and this nice little touch as well, an executive Audi designed coat hanger. There's a good choice of engines on the new A6. There's the familiar 1.8 litre turbo engine, which is a 5-valve model. There's also the all-new 2.4 litre V6 made specifically for the A6, and this, the 2.8 litre V6, available in either a 2-wheel drive or the very familiar Quattro 4-wheel drive. And coming soon we'll see the familiar 1.9 turbo diesel engine. In overall length, the new A6 is similar to the old model, but its basic styling has enabled the proportions to change. Body overhang has been reduced by 57mm at the front and 17mm at the rear, and the wheelbase has been increased by 73mm. The body's aerodynamic shape has put the high point of the curve at a more central point than before, allowing for more interior room. Knee room for the rear seat passengers has been increased by 62mm. Headroom is greater by 28mm at the front and 20mm at the rear. Now, you don't do a test drive with a tape measure, of course, but the overall feel is one of space and airiness. and it almost makes the BMW 5 Series seem cramped in comparison. I'm in the top-of-the-range Audi A6. This is the 2.8 Quattro, and with me, David Ingram, Product Marketing Manager. David, you were closely involved in the way that the whole A6 was put together. Tell us more about your role in that.
Well, it started off as a role for assisting the engineers to develop the right things for right-hand drive vehicles to ensure that, for example, the windscreen wipers went the right way. It might sound funny, but it wasn't always the case many years ago. And to ensure the appropriate positioning for the pedal layout, the footrest for the clutch foot, and the positioning of the seat, steering wheel and pedal relationship. But I think also beyond that, the UK market is very emotionally based, and the engineers value the input from what they see as a very important market, in fact their most important export market.
Now on some of the cars you can have the automatic gearbox with the Tiptronic. What about on some cars, the Porsche 911s have the shift up and down on the steering wheel? Is that going to come on the new A6?
Yes, very much so. We hope to be able to offer that within about 12 months, also with radio controls on the steering wheel, again for more and more convenience, but we want to make sure that the positioning of the buttons is exactly right so that they don't get in the way of normal day-to-day driving. The outgoing A6 was developed quite some time ago, and a lot of developments have taken place since then. I think the most noticeable thing about the car, as you say, apart from the design, is how much more refined the car is. The engines are much smoother. A lot of engine technology with 5 valves per cylinder makes the car more efficient, makes the engine more efficient, but also quieter and smoother. The car itself is much quieter in terms of road noise, wind noise, and the contrast between the driving experience of this car and its predecessor is really quite noticeable.
Now there are lots of important safety features on the new Audi A6, which of course you'd expect on an executive car costing between £20,000 and £30,000. You get airbags for both the driver and passenger, you get 5th generation ABS, and you get ASR, which is an electronic traction control. Now unfortunately it's a beautiful dry sunny day today, we can't try it out, but presumably on wet roads it means the car is very stable, there's no wheel spin. Even Audi have provided us with the nice weather today.
A whole host of features which really are designed to give a very safe feel to the driver's sort of driving. I mean, what we don't want to do is confuse him with all sorts of things he has to do, so we tend to just put them there. And really we don't want him worrying about electronic diff lock or anti-slip control or ABS, but just want him to be confident that in the back of his mind, should he get into a situation where they're needed, they just happen automatically.
I mean, most people, when they try and look through the handbook and try and work out what that is and what that is and what it does, I mean, are probably going to be completely confused.
Absolutely. I think we just need to make sure that they know it's there and it's working in their interests and enjoying, improving their enjoyment of the driving.
So all in all, this brand new Audi A6 is a very classy executive car. You'd be happy to pull up in the company car park in this. The prices are very competitive. This car is £1,000 cheaper than the rival BMW. Specification is very high as well. So if you want a car that's well built, reliable, solid, and it's made in Germany, try out the BMW, try out the Mercedes, but don't forget the new Audi A6.
Ian Royle with the new Audi A6, which goes on sale this week in the UK. Happy test driving. Well, after the break, we leave behind Tudor-beamed Kent castles and UK models to discover the latest news from the spring motor shows stateside. Join us then. And welcome back to Four Wheels Good. Well, if there's one country in the world where motoring has become an obsession, it's America, where cars are icons, a symbol of freedom and individuality. The difference in designs between the UK and the States reflects a difference in attitude we have to our four-wheeled friends. Mike Rutherford has been trawling the recent American motor shows. Ginny Buckley catches up on his movements.
Mike, so far this year we've seen a lot of motor shows. We've seen Geneva, Detroit, with a lot of exciting new products, new launches and concept vehicles. But you've been to quite a few more than that, haven't you? What other shows have you been to so far?
Yeah, and these are local shows. I mean, the two I've been to within the last couple of months, the Los Angeles Motor Show and the San Diego show only a week or two ago.
So that's 3 in the States so far this year alone.
Yeah, and when I talk about those shows, you would think, oh, so what's the big deal? They're just for the locals. You know, 500,000 people turned up for the San Diego Motor Show. On the opening day of the show for the public, there's one of the big NASCAR drivers, which is the, you know, sort of a good old boys motorsport in the States. Huge sport. You know, I mean, that is in the southern part of the States what Formula One is to us. One of the big drivers was there signing autographs, talking to people. It would be like having Damon Hill. Perhaps that's not the right example in view of his recent history, but you know, it would be like having a Damon Hill or a Nigel Mansell or a Michael Schumacher at a European motor show signing autographs for the punters. And I mean, that's got to be the way to go. These shows also cost a lot less money to get into than the shows in Europe, in particular in Britain, and they have a lot of interesting stuff. I mean, the San Diego show had all sorts of, perhaps not state-of-the-art stuff in as much as it hadn't been seen before. You know, I mean, most of the stuff there we'd seen at other shows around the world, but great displays, great static exhibitions, and a great atmosphere. You know, you saw in Detroit the way that they just the way they present the cars is a whole lot more exciting.
And for those of you who haven't seen Prowler yet, well, your eyes are not deceiving you, because Prowler is clearly as it appears to be, a tribute to an original American art form. Now, power for this sleek street rod comes from the robust 24-valve single overhead cam V6 engine, which is the same engine offered in the Chrysler LHS.
Of course, the Prowler was there, the Plymouth Prowler or the Chrysler Prowler.
We love the Prowler.
Oh, just fantastic. And if we love the Prowler,
we can say the Prowler.
Yeah. Well, the reason that I'm sounding a bit like this is because the narrator, the lady who was explaining what the Prowler was all about, I think we may have some footage of her. And well, I'll leave it to you guys to decide what you think. I know what I think.
Mike's torn between the Prowler and the narrator for who gets the top prize of the show.
No,
I
it's
think.
no contest. I mean, I like cars, but it's the narrator.
Well, there you go. I hope you decided whether the Prowler or the narrator was the one there. Mike's. Come on, Mike, get with it. So what else was at San Diego? We've seen the narrator and the Prowler. What else was there?
Well, listen, we've all seen the Jeep Wrangler, and in fact, I'm sick to death of the Jeep Wrangler because I've driven it so often and I've seen it so often at motor shows. But there was an exhibit at the San Diego show that I've not seen anything like anywhere in the world. Just take a look at this. This is a cutaway of a Jeep Wrangler. And it's a cutaway, I think you'll agree, that's unlike any other cutaway you've ever seen. And the great thing about it is, not only have they put a saw through the middle of the car and to show you the inside, the engine and all the components, but they've actually done the good bit of labelling all these things. So you're not embarrassed to ask your mates what that bit is because it tells you on the car. And as you can also see here, the car is moving as well, so that it's a brilliant cutaway. The thing's moving as if it's climbing over rocks, and of course it's a static display. And I've already had words with Chrysler in the UK, and I've said to them, you've got to get this car at the London Motor Show in October. And I mean, it was really drawing the crowds more than anything else. Fascinating to see a car in a completely different light as this one is. And of course Chrysler, you know, as usual, had a huge presence at the show.
And so innovative as well. There's always seems to be something different from them, doesn't there?
And to be fair, they unveiled a car that was unlike any other, well, a car that's never been seen, as far as I know, at any other show before, the 5.9 litre version of the Grand Cherokee. I'd love to pay the fuel bills for that one, wouldn't you?
Yes, me, yeah.
But there was also something interesting called the Wet Vet. We saw that, no, don't...
Where are these names from? What's going on?
Don't get the wrong idea. The Wet Vet, of course, we saw the Corvette launched at the Detroit Motor Show, the Chevrolet Corvette.
So it was a Corvette in a wet T-shirt?
No, it's a Corvette that goes in the water, and it's really a speedboat. It's as simple as that.
Right.
But what would be cooler than, you know, when you're driving in and around San Diego, which is of course a beach resort, actually driving a Corvette car and towing your Wet Vet boat.
It sounds great when you put it like that, but unfortunately we're in the middle of Manchester next to the Manchester Ship Canal, and it doesn't have quite the same exotic appeal here, does it really?
Not quite.
So why next for you? What's the next show on the list?
Well, let me just, before we go on to the next one, let me just tell you briefly about another one, the LA Motor Show. Now that's an interesting one. That was held a month or two ago, and I'm not sure if I've been home since then actually, but great show, and I think it's one that could really take off, mark my words. In time to come, in 10, 20 years time, you might see the LA show being almost as important as the Detroit show, because an awful lot of activity takes place in LA. It doesn't have a motor industry as such, but of course in a sense it's the car capital of the world, because everybody has a car. Lots of design studios out there. A lot of people in LA set the trend for the rest of the US and therefore the rest of the world, as the US is the biggest car market in the world. And therefore the LA show, and you can see from some of these exhibits, some fascinating stuff there. A lot of electric cars, of course, and if LA gets its way, a huge percentage of the cars on the streets of LA will be alternative powered.
The legislation just really calls for so much more in electric, doesn't it? Alternative fuels as well.
Yeah, but I'm not sure that the manufacturers can keep up with all that. But as you can see, again, from this footage, you know, electric cars doesn't necessarily mean boring cars. And some of these cars, you know, whether they've got electric power, whether they've got conventional internal combustion engines, whether they move or not, quite frankly, they're interesting cars. And it's you may well be seeing some of these cars on the streets in the States and indeed in Europe and the UK.
So where do you go to next? What's the next show?
Good question. I think it's, well,
it's Tuesday, so it must
Tuesday.
be...
Oh, actually, Saturday, it must be Seoul, South Korea.
Right. And what can we expect to see in Korea?
That's a good question.
And you don't know the answer to it?
Well, I do. I can give you a little idea, actually. We're going to be seeing an awful lot from Daewoo, and that's perhaps no surprise, because Daewoo have currently got a tired, ageing model range. And they've really softened up the market with that.
They're designing some of their own cars, aren't they?
Yeah, with the help, again, of a lot of foreigners. And there's a Brit, actually, who's very much involved in the design operation in Seoul. I've actually been to Daewoo's secret design studios, and I've seen the future generation of Daewoo cars, and it staggers me they've done as well as they have with the rotten old cars they've got at the moment. Quite frankly, they're not very good cars. You should see what Daewoo have got coming up. Think a cross between Lancia and Honda, and that gives you a flavour of what Daewoo's of the future look like. We're talking small cars, we're talking hatchbacks, medium-sized cars, luxury cars, sports cars, city cars, people carriers. I've actually seen them all. You might be saying, well, if you've seen them all, why don't you give us evidence of that? This was on the understanding, of course, this was just a briefing, couldn't show pictures. In fact, if I tell you that I was followed to the...
It's worse than James Bond, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I went to the loo at one point, and actually, as one does, and I was actually followed by a Daewoo. I think he followed me to check that I wasn't making drawings or taking
and
pictures.
That's quite enough of that, thank you, Mike. But will you promise to come back and talk to us again when you've been to Seoul and you've seen more of what's happening out there?
I will indeed, and I can tell you also, Hyundai are going to have a lot of new cars out there too.
So Mike will join us in a couple of weeks when he's back from his globe-trotting even, and let us know what's been happening out in Seoul.
Thanks, Ginny. Mike Rutherford there, musing on the motor shows. And Mike will be back next week. And by the way, mark this in your diary for July the 4th. Under Independence Day, mark down USA Motors Night. Yes, we've got a 2-hour collection of excess, obsession and exhilaration from the country where the car is king. Our Stars and Stripes special for Independence Night is exclusive to the Men and Motors channel. Make sure you watch. Well, we may scoff at the Americans' obsession with a pickup truck, which is the biggest selling vehicle over there, but Don't scoff too loudly, because we here in the UK seem to have a close affinity with the dear old 4x4.
If you've never driven off-road in a four-wheel drive vehicle before, prepare for a surprise. It's that topsy-turvy roller coaster world where the normal rules of driving are completely reversed. You'll find yourself doing white-knuckle rides, but at walking pace.
We do 3 days of courses which are the core of the stuff that we do here. It's a bit like learning to ski or any other sport. There's a laid down sort of syllabus, in fact, that we take you through while you're having some fun. And the first day is how you handle the actual machine, how to put it in four-wheel drive, basic machine handling skills. Day 2 takes you out into the mountains, and then you put that into practice. So after day 1 you know how to drive, after day 2 you know where to drive and what the correct code of conduct for drivers in the countryside is, and then day 3 brings all that together and we take you out on a full-blown mountain safari.
But I've come along for Beginner's Day on the off-road courses in the grounds of Flint's Kinsale Hall Hotel. I'm a rare single on the course.
Often we get husbands and wives out, and she actually, I hate to say this, will probably do better than he does, because women listen to everything the instructor says and they do it first time, every time. Whereas the average male driver listens to half what the instructor says, and then when he gets stuck will say, "What was that you said 5 minutes ago?"
And here's course partner Joanna Davies, quietly taking in the basic points of four-wheel driving.
Oh, this is terrible.
While Peter talks me up the first nursery slope.
Well done. Roll mode, nothing to it.
Soon we were tackling a little light mud. Taking our feet off the pedals going downhill. And steering out of the skid on a sideways slope. Until it was time for a dip.
Now welly it, really hard. Go on, go on, go on, go on, go on, go on.
Oh, stop.
Now we're going to get out of this. We're in about 3 feet of mud here. Now welly it, really hard. Go on, go on, go on, go on, go on, go on.
After watching Joanna, the mud bath looked distinctly intimidating.
Right, accelerate hard.
No. Is it going to go? Yay! Did it. That was amazing. I've never done anything which is quite so different from how I'd originally imagined it. I was watching for the top, it all looked very easy, but then once you start, it's like getting rid of all your instincts to do with driving and just trusting. Initial tuition over, it's time for a play. But even the toys are off-roaders.
We try to give, as we say, on our Super Drive Day, which is the day that's going on here, the chance to drive the complete cross-section. Everything from the little Suzukis, the SJ410s, 413s, which are at the sort of, I would say, the starter end of the market, where most people would actually first come in, right through to the top range, the big Toyota 4.2, which is obviously £28,000–30,000 worth.
And they'll tackle just about anything, as Joanna was discovering on the interestingly named Quarry Circuit.
Do I steer now?
Now steer about there, yeah?
I'm not
So
I'm never sure when it's going to steer itself.
What you've got to remember is it's a big vehicle, isn't it?
So, more gas?
Just a squeeze.
Oh, I think I've just knocked down some poles.
Well, we're actually supported by the majority of the off-road manufacturers now. We floated the idea of four-wheel drive training, 4 years ago?
I want to put my feet on the pedals, I want to brake.
Just dig the brake then. Right, steer back towards you. Quick, 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 quick. There you go. Keep her there. Absolutely still.
Ooh.
Brilliant. In one go. Look at that. Well done.
Oh.
And your foot didn't go near the pedal.
I didn't, did I? I was too frightened.
The end of the course and time to go. But at Motor Safari, they found that just one day can make the bug bite hard. Sometimes. Would you buy one of these?
I would buy a house first and then I'd probably buy one afterwards.
Very sensible. Didn't she do well? Nikki Fox there with the joys of 4x4. And a bit of a surprise as well to learn that the boys, or rather the girls, did better than the boys. And if you think that mud plucking in a four-wheel drive is tough, wait till you see the sorts of vehicles Ginny will be driving after the break. Hello again and welcome back. Now then, whenever car enthusiasts meet non-car enthusiasts, there's always the argument over what the appeal really is to the petrol heads. The ultimate thrill, say the non-initiated, is for the car nut to drive as fast as possible in a vehicle as powerful as possible. To many of us, though, this is patently untrue. Ginny Buckley meets a team of enthusiasts whose set of wheels, or should we say tracks, certainly have the power, but maybe not the speed.
There's an incredible amount of vehicles on the market for us to drive, but for some people, enough is never enough. For some strange reason, they want to come into the middle of the countryside and drive tanks.
Terry, the first question I've got to ask you, if you're looking for a second-hand car, you look in the Auto Trader or the paper, where do you go when you want a second-hand tank?
Well, the first tank we bought was the one you're sitting on, actually, came out of the Automart or Auto Trader.
I don't believe you.
No, I'm telling the truth. There was one of the partners in the business, he was just skimming through the pages, seen there was a tank for sale and said to the other guys, well, who'd buy a tank? But sure enough, he went out and bought it. I don't think he knew why he was buying it. I think he just wanted to find some old land and drive it around himself, but he could see a potential with it.
What do you think the whole appeal is of driving a tank? I mean, manufacturers go out of their way to make vehicles, faster and more comfortable. Why do people want to come and drive these things? Because they are so basic.
They're basic, but they're big. And I mean, these things were, designed to travel over, the roughest terrains on the planet. And this is a chance now for the normal people to drive these vehicles. You don't have to join the army anymore, do you? Yeah.
What kind of people do you get coming here to drive them? Because looking around today, there's seen quite a lot of families. Now that surprises me a bit.
Yeah, you get you get all sorts. I mean, young, old. I mean, the last time we had a day here, there was a 75, 85-year-old lady. She really loved it. We've got an 80-year-old coming in May. So it takes, all sorts of people come here.
So what vehicles have you got? Because there's the tanks that I can see. There's a couple of rather strange looking ones over there to my left. So talk me through the range that we can drive.
Well, we've got 3 tanks. These are Abbott's. They're built by Lockheed, I believe. Over here you've got the Bedford MK, which is a 4-wheel drive truck. It's a troop carrier. Just here you've got the Alva Stalwart, which is an amphibious arms carrier. Sadly, we've got no water to show you what they're like when they're in the water. We've got the APC over there, which is the Sultan. Behind that, we've got a Snowcat, built by Volvo 25 years ago. I believe they were used in the Falklands a lot. And what else have we got? We've got the 101 V8 Land Rover, which is over in the woods there.
I'll tell you, you've got a lot of vehicles and they make an awful lot of noise. It's not a place to be if you're sort of sensitive hearing, really, is it?
No, it's not, but the good thing about it is we're surrounded by trees, so nobody can hear us from here. It used to be a motocross circuit, but that got closed down because of noise. But these are a lot quieter than motorbikes. You wouldn't think it, but it is.
Well, I kind of like to think that I've driven quite a lot of vehicles in my time, but I've got to be honest now, I've never driven anything like this. So what are the chances of me doing it okay? Are they hard to drive, and can I have a go?
No, I mean, the thing about these is they're so easy. There's nothing to crash into, nothing to hit. Yes, you must have a go.
to introduce you to one very brave lady here. This is Lauren. And Lauren, your mates have bought you a bit of an unusual birthday present this year, haven't they? What did they get you?
They've bought me 5 trips in certain different vehicles here today.
So what have you been in so far?
I've been in the Snowcat, the 1-to-1 and the Bedford MK, which is behind you now.
And that was the one that you nearly crashed 2 minutes ago.
Yes, it is, yes.
What do you think of it? Because it's an unusual way to spend a Sunday. You know, it's not like, getting glammed up and going around the shops, is it really? Is it fun, even a good time?
It's been excellent so far. I've still got another 2 vehicles to go in, but thoroughly enjoying it.
How do you think the vehicles compare to driving traditional vehicles? Have you found it harder than you imagined?
It's probably what I expected. The Bedford MK is very, very hard. The other 2 weren't so bad.
And what next then? What are you going for next?
I think it's the tank next.
Yeah, let's go for the tank and fire a few people. Well, next up for my driving pleasure, the Land Rover 101, a munitions and troop carrier. It's got a V8 engine and they tell me it will go anywhere. Sounds promising. Stephen, you've had a bit of an unusual day today, haven't you, so far?
I have, yes. It all started about 7 o'clock this morning. The wife got up and I thought, very strange, bit suspicious. Got in the shower about 8:30 to be welcomed by 2 gentlemen in my bedroom, pointing a camera at me.
We don't want to know about things like that, thank you.
Fortunately, I had my trousers on and lately then got my shirt on. But yeah, it was a big surprise.
And where did you end up then after these 2 gentlemen kidnapped you?
I was then put in a car and driven for about half an hour, 40 minutes, then blindfolded, and then arrived here. And then blindfolded to the first vehicle, which was the gun behind me. And yeah, big surprise and a nice surprise.
So you had no idea at all, but you've been driving the vehicles here today, and what was it? It's a present from your wife, is
That's
it?
right.
Good idea for a present.
Fantastic.
What have you driven so far?
I've driven the gun behind me, and the snow tractor, I think it's called, and the 101.
And which has been your favourite out of the vehicles you've driven?
To be fair, the tank, but the course with the 101 is brilliant, especially on the vertical drop.
The thing that struck me from driving the tank is you imagine it's going to be very difficult, but it's not as bad as you imagine, is it?
No, there's one pedal rather than 3 and 2 levers. Pull the left one, you go left, pull the right one, you go right. It's easy.
Only the cars are as simple.
Exactly.
So you're having a good time, you're having fun?
Yeah, brilliant.
This strange-looking vehicle is the articulated Snowcat, perfect for those Arctic conditions that you get all the time here in Wales. Now, it's made by Volvo, so I'm assured that it's going to be nice and safe. It's got an 1800 engine and will take you from 0 to 60 in around 2.5 years. Good old Volvo. Always live up to their image, don't they? They always perform. Well, certainly never driven a Volvo quite like it. And really, it was fun, but you can give me the C70 any day.
That woman is so athletic. It's just a shame nobody told her how to work the door catch, really. You're watching Granada Men and Motors and 4 Wheels Good, and after the break, the story of how a new efficient engine can give the effective power of a larger engine, but at the price of a cheaper one. Hi, welcome back. Now, since Ford introduced its rival to the long-established Espace, the Galaxy, the MPV and its clones from Volkswagen and Seat have been leading the new wave of people movers that drive like cars. The sector was the fastest growing last year, up 71% from the previous year. The Ford version, the Galaxy, has had a 2 and 2.8 litre petrol engine in its options. But now Ford have developed an engine which fills this wide gap rather neatly. Their 2.3 litre, 145 brake horsepower engine is claimed to give as much effective punch as the 2.8, but it's priced the same as the 2 litre. We flew to Germany to test drive the latest in the Galaxy Fold.
If you're a fan of MPVs or people carriers like this, then I've got exciting news for you. Ford have just launched a new addition to their Galaxy range with a 2.3 litre engine. So what, you might say? You can already get the 2 litre and the 2.8 V6 litre engine. So what's the difference with the 2.3? Well, Ford reckon you get better performance and just as good fuel economy as you do with the other engines. And they must be convinced. They flown me out to Dusseldorf to test drive it. So I think we should have a go, don't you? What I want to know is, what is the appeal of the people carriers, because they really are taking off these days and so many people are buying them. And here to tell me why is Stuart Dybel, who's the product and motorsport PR manager.
That's right.
That's right. Have I said that the right way around?
You certainly have.
Now, what is it do you think that is making these kind of vehicles so appealing?
I think the key thing is really the versatility. You can have up to 7 seats, you can take seats out, you can swivel them around, you can put bikes in there, you can put fridges in there, so it really can appeal to people who want to carry a lot of people around or have got various life cycle needs.
And what do you think that it is about this particular model, the new 2.3, that's going to appeal to people?
Well, I think the key thing with the 2.3 is it really does offer an optimum blend of performance. It's almost as fast as the larger V6, and economy, it's actually the same fuel economy as the less powerful 2 litre model, so it really offers the optimum package in the Galaxy.
Do you think that people are going to buy this rather than the 2 litre then?
I think this will now account for probably the majority of the mix on Galaxy, although there will still be, I think, some people going for the 2 litres really at the entry-level model, the Aspen.
Mm-hmm. And how does it compare as far as price goes with the 2 litre?
It's exactly the same price as the 2 litre, and in fact on the GLX model, which is the base series, you also get quick clear for demisting the screen very quickly on a cold day, and ABS for the same price.
Well, the 2.3 litre Galaxy may compare favourably with the rest of the Galaxy range, but how does it compare with the competition? The Renault Espace, for instance, or the Fiat Ulysses? Well, a man who should know, after all he's driven them all, is James May from Car Magazine. James, how do you think the Galaxy compares with other MPVs?
Well, I'm not really in the MPV target market because I'm young and single and without children or responsibilities or a garden for rubbish. So I have to admit I am a fan of the Galaxy because I still think it feels the most car-like, or perhaps I should say the least van-like. Mm-hmm. If you want to really be van-like about it, I think you have to get the little Daihatsu Hi-Jet MPV, which is a little tinny toy car thing that was made out of a van. But of the big ones, the serious MPVs, the Galaxy is probably the most fun to drive.
I found it quite comfortable to drive, but I mean, I'm relatively short and you're quite tall, so how did you find it to drive? Was the position comfortable for you?
Yeah, I think probably the biggest benefit of an MPV is interior space, and I don't just mean legroom, it's the sensation of being within a large volume. And as you'll know, if you go on an aeroplane, the thing you pay for when you move upper class isn't the metal knife and fork or what have you, it's to have more space around you. So in that sense, it is very luxurious, even if you only have a very basic model like the Aspen version of the Galaxy, which really is absolutely bog standard and no electric gizmos and so on. You've still got the space, so that's what makes it a comfortable thing. It's odd, really, because I can't remember ever seeing one full of people, except when it was full of school kids, obviously being taken to school. So I don't think that the appeal is really, in the end, in their versatility. I mean, how often do you actually fill the boot of your car up? Maybe twice a year. So it's largely fashion, but also because you get this nice sense of having your own little sort of canopy over you. It's rather nice.
So you give it a thumbs up then, generally?
On the whole, yes. I still don't think I'm ever likely to be a buyer. Not unless something really tragic happens in the next couple of years, like I have some children or something. But yeah, pretty good.
Of course, it's all well and good driving the thing, but the best thing about a people carrier is being one of the people that gets carried about in it. It's just fab. There's loads of toys in the back, loads of things to keep you occupied on your journey. The seats all fold down and make sort of tables, and everywhere you look there's somewhere to put your drink down. Really like nifty little things, you know. All the arms move, plenty of space, lots of toys, like this. I love this. CD player. I could be in heaven. Well, that's the test drive over with. And very nice it was too. I mean, I'm only short, but I'm sure that if you were about 6 foot, you'd still have plenty of room. There's plenty of headroom, plenty of leg room too. And the good thing about this is that you don't feel like you're driving a van. The steering wheel position is good, the chair is comfortable, the driver's chair is comfortable. It's a fairly quiet ride as well, which is, I think, good for this size of vehicle. Ford are claiming that it has a really good balance between performance and fuel economy. And I've done quite a few kilometres and it has actually been very good for fuel. I think that if you're in the market for an MPV, you can't really go far wrong with a Galaxy. I think it's great.
Sam Kenny with the new engined Galaxy there. Well, maybe this will be the summer of a new MPV for your family for this summer's holiday. We're out of time now, I'm afraid, so it's goodbye from all of us on the Four Wheels team. Join us next week when we'll be featuring two sporty muscle cars, the traditional Morgan Plus 8 and the mighty new Dodge Viper. We'll see you then.